I bet that you read the title of this video and you would have said one of two things. You would say, what do you mean? Five Nights at Freddy's has always been good. Or you would say, what do you mean? Five Nights at Freddy's was never good. But with the FNAF movie currently in production and more people talking about the series again, I think it's a good time to go through the franchise's history to really find out if Five Nights at Freddy's was ever good. To find out if FNAF was ever good, I decided to play through all the games again, as some of the games in this series I had beat besides from the custom nights when they came out, and some of them I haven't even played before. So I thought that would be interesting to live stream my experiences of playing these games again, since some of them I haven't played in years and some of them I've never played before, and also I played some of these games whilst recording the video. But I won't keep Freddy and the gang waiting, so let's get into it with...
We're waiting every night to finally moment.
So we have to go all the way back to August of 2014 to start this little adventure, with the trailer of this game releasing on June the 15th in the same year. It was really a massive change in tone for Scott, because before this game he was making Christian games and even uploading an 8-part series called The Pilgrim's Progress in 2007. But the one game that got Scott to create Five Nights at Freddy's was the game Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., which was released in 2013. The game in question is all about managing a lumber business playing as a beaver called Chipper, and it was released on iOS and Android. So after the game was released, people criticised the game, saying that the characters looked like animatronic dolls, and Scott ended up using those same criticisms to create Five Nights at Freddy's as we know it. So before we get into the game itself, I think we should have a look at the character designs, since the characters were designed because of the criticisms from his last game. So the characters in the first game are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy, and a fifth hidden character that can be activated on nights 1 and 3 by looking at camera 2B, Golden Freddy. And also with the code 1987 and custom night. But I feel like these characters are perfectly designed for copying the aesthetic of Chuck E. Cheese's animatronics, and honestly, sometimes Freddy and the gang actually look less scary than the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. But they really do capture the design of 80s to 90s pizzeria animatronics to a T, and I definitely do think it is something to do with how Scott models his characters, as this stays pretty consistent throughout the FNAF games he's made. There are some designs I think are scarier, but for what this game was trying to achieve, they're perfect character designs. So I think you all know how the first game plays if you're watching this video, but for the very few of you, it's just a click and survive horror game where you have to check the cameras to see if the animatronics are moving, and then shut the doors when they get close to you. Another thing that's absolutely great about this game is the atmosphere. It really is quite spooky, but the main thing you hear is just ambience of the room and the fan spinning in front of you, and it really makes the moments when animatronics are close to you more scary. Also, having things like secret poses in the cameras, such as Freddy staring at the camera and Bonnie getting close to the camera twice, and even really small things like the posters changing in the hallways are really well done, and it really builds the suspense of the game. The one thing that got me spooked while playing the game again is randomly having the "It's me" with different renders of Freddy and Bonnie popping up on the screen. The hallucinations really do catch you off guard. The legs were blending in like there. Hey, spooky! It's me! That kind of gave me a fright there, I didn't expect that. That gave me a fright. And the same thing happens if you see Golden Freddy. Playing this game again, I can't say that I have many criticisms for it, because it came out at the right place at the right time, and it really started its own genre of indie horror games, and it changed the face of indie horror as we know it. If I was to give any criticisms to this game, there's 2 jump scares in the game that are pretty weak. Freddy's out of power jump scare, and the obvious bad one is Foxy's jump scare where he just pokes his head out the door to check on you. I really can't think of any other criticisms of the game, since it decided to stay small and simple with a few little hints to there being more lore to the game, with a man ending 5 kids, and because of that I really do think it is one of the best in the series. Not sure if it is the best, but we'll see about that. So with the massive success that was the first Five Nights at Freddy's because of people like Markiplier playing the game,
hello everybody, my name is Mark.
Of course a sequel was going to come. I'm pretty sure it was Markiplier that got me into this series, seeing his Let's Plays like 2 days after they came out, but I'm not sure, maybe I got into it before, I honestly can't remember. So Scott got to work on the sequel pretty much as soon as the first game started doing really well, and even started to tease the game on his website scottgames.com on the 11th of September, a month and 3 days after the first game was released. First teasers showed Withered Freddy holding his hat whilst looking at the audience, with the sequel's release to be in 2015. After that, another 3 teasers came out showing a few different characters such as Withered and Toy Bonnie, Withered Foxy, Mangle, and even the Freddy mask mechanic. All the teasers came out within a month's time from the first teaser, with the game's trailer coming out on the 21st of October, and I remember when this trailer came out, it was massive news and everyone was hyped, including myself. Then finally, the last teaser of the game came out on the 8th of November, teasing the puppet, but you had to brighten the image to get a better look at the puppet. Which I believe was the first of many different hidden teasers where you'd brighten up the image to find something hidden in the photo. But only 2 days after the last teaser, the game was dropped on Steam, and of course, this game was highly praised as well. This game brought in 5 new characters, with the original gang being all damaged and withered, and out of the withered designs, I really think that Chica and Bonnie's designs are the best. And I also think Golden Freddy looks much better in this game compared to the first. But as the gameplay goes, it's basically FNAF on steroids, by adding a few different gameplay mechanics such as the music box, flashing your flashlight to get rid of certain animatronics, and the Freddy mask that I mentioned earlier. With this game being a beefed up version of the first game, obviously it is harder and there are more things to deal with, especially having to constantly one up the music box, because if you don't... yeah, that happens. So with this game you have quite a lot to balance, since you have to constantly wind up the music box and use a Freddy mask when the animatronics get close. Besides from Foxy, which you need to use a flashlight on to get rid of them in the hallway in front of you. One thing that I don't like about this game compared to the first is that the atmosphere in this game is gone. It isn't quiet and creepy with all the ambient sounds, but I guess this game was meant to just be a harder version of the first game by adding new characters and mechanics to challenge the player in other ways. Going through this game again, I honestly really couldn't be bothered to go all the way through the 6th night because it just takes a lot of time and practice to get good at this game. And I'll be honest, when playing this game again, I only got to night 4. Also with this game, we get a bit more world building with the 4 mini-games that can occur after you die, which is the first of many times that mini-games show up in the series. All of the 4 mini-games imply things about the lore of the FNAF universe, such as this kid possessing the puppet, and the puppet going on to give life to the 5 children that got ended by the purple guy. But the lore is one thing I won't get into too much because it gets very convoluted and confusing, as you all may know. I don't think that this game's as good as the first, but for the time it was definitely a step in the right direction as people were managing to beat 420 mode in the first game, so why not amp it up by making a 1020 mode? And it's extremely respectable that he managed to get this game out only 3 months after the first one came out. This is where the franchise's hype was at its peak. Everyone was hyped for the 3rd FNAF game. I remember that the first update to the website that came out after the 2nd game's release was on my 15th birthday. November the 13th, by the way. Which was only 3 days after the game came out, and all it said was offline. Quite a few people, including myself, thought that it was the end of the series, but eventually that offline screen was updated to the same thing. Again on the 6th of December, but if you brightened up the image you'd see a 3 in the bottom corner confirming that a 3rd game was coming. After that, on the 2nd day of 2015, we got this teaser of the new animatronic of the game, and a lot of people thought that it was Golden Freddy, and people tried to copy the face and reverse it to try and get a better look at who this might be, and this is an abomination. But after that ominous teaser, on the 14th of January, we probably got one of the worst FNAF teasers of all time. Why is this one of the worst? Well, it's because this teaser got people speculating that this new animatronic was like a hybrid of all these FNAF 2 animatronics. But no, the box just sits in the corner of the office. The only thing saving this teaser is that we get a better look at the animatronic for this game, as people figured out that it was a type of Bonnie suit. Then on the 26th of Jan, the trailer drops, as well as another teaser on his website where it says he always does in purple, implying that this new animatronic is the purple guy. This teaser was only up for a day and then it returned to the previous teaser until a new one got uploaded on the 3rd of February of the FNAF 3 map, and if you brightened it up you would see a vent system. People also figured out that if you rotated the map 180 degrees it looked like Scott's logo character, which is a neat little Easter egg. Also, during the time of these teasers, Scott came out and told people that the new animatronic's name was Springtrap in a community post on the game's Steam page. Then on the 1st of March, a new teaser came out on his website with Phantom BB with the text "Guess Who" was on the site, and if you brighten up the image you'd see the number 10, which was meant to be a countdown for the game's release but didn't end up being an actual countdown. The next day, another teaser with Phantom Chica and Foxy saying "It's All In Your Mind" was up, until the next day on the 3rd of March the game was released. Also, another image was uploaded to Scott's website on the same day as the game came out, with Freddy's hat being lit up by a spotlight, symbolizing that this was meant to be the last game in the franchise. During the time of teasing the new game, Scott on the 15th of February trolled everyone by saying that he was hacked, and that FNAF 3 in full was uploaded by the hacker. If you played the supposed leak, it would show a screen saying "new" as we see Springtrap jittering around, and if you clicked "new" it would take you to a reskin of one of his older games called "There Is No Pause Button," but the character's face is Freddy's face instead, where the troll song played in the background. So as Five Nights at Freddy's 3 goes, it's much different to what we got in the past where we had more than one animatronic in the game. Well, technically there's more than one because of the phantoms, but they're just hallucinations. So people got disappointed, especially by the jump scare. This is something I absolutely agree with, since Springtrap is the only animatronic that can kill you in this game. The jump scare is extremely disappointing, since he seems like he's just coming up to talk to you about something. Another thing I don't like about this game is the audio lure. Like, you have to lure Springtrap away by using them, and when I was playing this live, Springtrap was just being a dick on the 2nd night. There he is.
Hello?
go to that audio cue. What an asshole. He's actually so fucking annoying. He doesn't listen. He's like an arrogant little fucking kid. You're doing audio cues? Fuck your audio cues. He went to one of my cues. One. Maybe I'm just shit at this game, but he literally wasn't listening to any of my audio cues. There are things I really like about this game, such as the setting and the color scheme with all the greens, olives, and browns, really showing how old this place is, and Springtrap fits right into this setting really well. Talking about Springtrap, what's there to say about his design besides it being one of the best designs in the whole franchise? The whole design of a spring Bonnie suit decaying with a human body inside is awesome, but the body inside doesn't look great. Not bad, but it could have looked better, but still, it looks awesome when you have the suit over the corpse. Also, the best thing about this game is how it builds on the lore of the franchise, as this was meant to be a conclusion to the whole franchise. We get to see the conclusion with the mini games you can activate by doing certain things on the cameras, such as pressing buttons on an arcade machine. There's 5 mini games, but in each mini game you can play them how they're meant to be played, or you can get out of the room to do something else for the good ending. There's a lot you have to do, but basically as the exit shows up in each mini game, you have to give cake to the crying child by going a certain direction to the child. And when you finish the game, you get the good ending where the souls of the possessed animatronics are freed. Even though the story was a little bit convoluted, I wish that it did stay pretty simple because, as you all may know, the further we get into this franchise, it gets more and more convoluted and more confusing. I don't enjoy the gameplay of this game, but obviously all the lore stuff is really good in this game, and I think it's probably at its best as lore goes since it tries to tie up all the loose ends. Right after the update on scottgames.com just showing the Freddy hat with a spotlight. People really thought that this was the last game of the franchise since Scott originally planned for this to be a trilogy. But after the hat disappeared from the spotlight, a month and a half later on the 22nd of April in 2015, people went nuts. This got people thinking that a 4th game was coming out, and they were right because a teaser for the game was posted on the 27th of April with Nightmare Freddy as the image says final chapter, with Halloween on the same year being the release date. But if you did the good old trick of brightening up the image, you'd see the text Nightmare heavily implying that these characters are the Nightmare animatronics and that the whole game may be in a nightmare. More and more teasers got posted showing off the other animatronics over the next month, until the 11th of June where the purple hat and tie was being teased, with text saying property of, and the rest of the text was blanked out, but people figured out that it says property of Fredbear's Family Diner. So now people knew that it was meant to be Fredbear's hat and bow tie, and the next teaser teased Nightmare Fredbear with a release date at the bottom. After that we got a plush trap teaser, and then a trailer for the game released on the 13th of July, and a week later the game's Steam page went up. But of course, in good old Scott fashion, this game didn't release on Halloween. It released 3 days after the Steam page was posted, and the game came out on the 23rd of July. There was another update on the 26th saying the end, thanks for playing, and if you brighten up the image, there was a question mark at the end. So with all the background on this game, what do I think? Pretty similar thoughts to FNAF 3 to be honest. The lore stuff is great, and of course we got one of the best memes of all time.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Was that the bite of 87?
And seeing the Easter eggs such as the flowers, pills, or IV bags next to the bed is a neat touch, and it's implied that the person we're playing as was put into a hospital or is possibly in a coma or dead. But I'm just not the biggest fan of the gameplay itself. It's a step up from FNAF 3, but the breathing mechanic honestly kind of annoys me and feels a bit cheap when you get jump scared. It really reminds me of old YouTube screamers where something quiet is playing and they encourage you to turn the audio up, and as soon as you do, it absolutely destroys your ears with something loud. It just feels cheap, and that's disappointing because the whole atmosphere of the child's room at night is really good. By the way, the nightmare designs of Freddy and the gang are really solid. The standouts for me are Nightmare and Nightmare On as designs go. I know that Nightmare is just a huge shift of Nightmare Fredbear, but I think the character really works for this story. I see the character Nightmare as more of a personal embodiment of death, obviously because of, you know what. But with Nightmare On, I just think it's an awesome design, basically being a massive lanky monster with tentacle arms, and that face is honestly creepy as fuck. But this character makes sense to show up in a different game compared to this one, but I guess it just was meant to be a different version of Nightmare in this game. Whilst I'm talking about these two characters, I know that their jump scares are just PNGs, but I love them as they really subvert your expectations since the rest of the characters just have the typical pick you up, open your jaw style jump scare. And with the different noise of the PNG jump scares, it's just the cherry on top. Also, they aren't extremely loud jump scares like the others in the game, which is actually better compared to the typical super loud screaming jump scare noise. But the jump scares are much better in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which, that isn't hard to beat, like, this shit sucks. I do enjoy this game, but damn, this game was basically made to be unstreamable since you really need to listen for the breathing, and even then it's hard to hear. It's better than FNAF 3 without a doubt, but I really do think that FNAF 1 and 2 are better. So this is the game everyone hates, huh? Well, I can understand why, because it came out at a weird time, because the franchise had ended for all we knew until we saw that Scott was updating the thank you photo with the FNAF World versions. This started on the 11th of September in 2015 and was updated daily until the trailer release on the 30th of October, and to say everyone was annoyed was an understatement. It just seems so weird to release an RPG game based on a click and survive horror game only a few months after the franchise had supposedly ended. Also, the trailer itself was actually quite disturbing at the start with the slow zooms into the eyes of the main four animatronics, obviously until we see the gameplay for the game itself. But the game ended up releasing on the 21st of January in 2016 with a lot of backlash, to the point where Scott took the game off of Steam, refunded all the people that paid for the game, and ended up updating the game for free, trying to fix the issues with the game, and the second update released on May the 13th. Absolute Chad move. I will definitely say that I was one of those people that didn't play the game because it was just a different tone from the other games when this game came out, and since I only decided to play the game now for the first time for this video, did I hate it like everyone else? No. I enjoyed it. There's no hiding the fact that this game came out in the worst time possible, but playing it now, I actually quite enjoy the game as I think it is a little fun RPG game using the FNAF characters. There are problems with this game, such as knowing where you're meant to go to progress in the game. And yes, I know the game says look out for glitches, but sometimes you're just wandering around trying to find anything out of the ordinary or trying to run into walls without any prevail. I also found that when I wanted to run from a fight, that it just wouldn't let me half the time. I would literally be holding R on my keyboard and it wouldn't let me run in a normal fight, which got annoying. But as the updates Scott added to the game go, they're the best parts of the game, with the little mini games being side scrollers, and I think my favourite was FNAF 57 Freddy in Space. There are quite a few endings of this game that show different things, such as one where you drown yourself in a lake that Old Man Consequences is fishing in, and even fighting Scott himself. But the important one is if you beat Chica's Magic Rainbow, which is voiced by Debbie Derryberry, who voices Jimmy Neutron. But when you beat the Magic Rainbow, you get to see a man behind a desk talking to you about the game, and it gets kind of meta about how he didn't want to disappoint the people. Very subtle, Scott. And then he ends up mentioning Baby, and after that we hear a voice line from Baby as the screen goes to black, and then we see the character dead at the desk as Kool-Aid spills all over it. This is a pretty cool teaser hinting towards something coming in the future, and hey, look, we all know now that it's for Sister Location. But as the game itself goes, I just think it's a little fun, silly game, and I ended up beating it a few times because it was just a fun little game to play that didn't take too long to beat it all. It's still very weird that this came out not too long after FNAF 4, but Scott seemed to redeem himself in the public eye with the next entry. Oh shit, it's the wrong game. But as this game goes, it started to get teased after FNAF World was done, and even after the first FNAF book was released, The Silver Eyes. So we finally got our first teaser on the 18th of February in 2016, and it's just lines. But then it got updated on the 26th of Feb, where the letter I was added near the end. And then slowly but surely we get the announcement of the game on the 23rd of April, where we can see Baby in the background. We then get looks at Baby, Enid, and the Biddy Babs, as well as a controlled shock where you can see the mini arenas in the background. Eventually people thought that the game was cancelled on the 16th of August, where Scott posted this: cancelled due to leaks. But with a good old brighten up the image, we find out that it was gas leaks at the establishment in the game, Circus Baby's Pizza World. So then we got a few teasers with Enid teasing the game's release date being the 7th of October in 2016, and hey, it actually released on that date too. But 10 days after the game came out, a custom night was teased and eventually was added to the game with an update on the 1st of December. This game is pretty interesting. It's not like the other FNAF games where it's a click and survive horror game, but instead you have to do tasks during each night and that's it. Also, you don't stay in the one place like the other games, you actually get to move the character into some places, such as events, Bellora's Gallery, and Funtime Auditorium. This game really leans into the sci-fi genre, as Scott does have a lot of history with making sci-fi games, and this is the direction he wanted to take the franchise, and I do think it looks cool, but I do prefer the more realistic and creepy atmosphere of the first game especially. Even the animatronics themselves have a massive sci-fi theme behind them, and we only have two familiar faces in this game. We have Funtime Foxy, Funtime Freddy, and a hand puppet version of Bonnie called Bon Bon. All the other animatronics in the game are new characters, such as Baby, which was teased in FNAF World, Ballora, Mini Renas, Biddy Babs, and Enid. Out of all the designs, I really think Ballora stands out as she looks creepy even in her normal form, and she has the best jump scare in the game. Talking about the jump scares, they're solid. Besides the ones in Custom Night, they're just a downgrade from the ones that are in the base game. Also, I have to be honest, this is probably the easiest out of all the games so far, since it's pretty self-explanatory what you have to do in each night. besides from Night 4, which is a pain. I feel bad for the people that beat this before the patch, since I still find it hard now, and it was even harder before the patch. But with the other tasks you have to do during the night, especially with walking through Ballura's Gallery and Funtime Auditorium, you just take your time and it's piss easy. Obviously you can make some mistakes while doing the repairs, but that isn't often since you're literally told exactly what to do. I actually fuck with this game quite a bit, but the biggest issue is the replayability and the fact that this game isn't really difficult besides from Night 4, and the secret ending where you survive until 6 AM with Enid. Also, the only reason it would be worth replaying is to get the Easter eggs and the secret endings, which are pretty cool and interesting. The most interesting endings have to be either the one where Enid escapes Michael's body and Michael's still alive, or the ending with Springtrap still being alive. I find it hilarious how Funko decided to make a Funko Pop of a secret ending and sister location with Springtrap, and they called it Dark Springtrap. It's hard to play this game as I do like it quite a bit, but it's just held back from the fact that it's not very replayable. It's probably just below FNAF 4. I find this game interesting as back when this game released, I actually believed it was a little troll game too. It definitely looked like that, especially with the first teaser released on the 18th of August in 2017 being an Atari looking Freddy with an LGN trail.
Put that all together, you got all the colors of the shit rainbow.
Scott kept this image up of the game being a tycoon style game where you manage your own pizzeria all the way up until releasing the game on the 4th of December in 2017, and to say that the FNAF style gameplay in this game caught people by surprise is an understatement. From here on out, I haven't actually played these Five Nights at Freddy's games before because I kind of lost interest after Sister Location when these games are coming out. But I still kept up to date by watching like Let's Plays and stuff. But being honest, this is yet another game that I really enjoy the lore with, but I don't enjoy the gameplay as much. Well actually no, I enjoy the Pizzeria Simulator part of the gameplay, just not the office gameplay. I really enjoy making your own pizzeria and buying certain items to design your own pizzeria the way you want it to, and to get the items you want. But as the office gameplay goes, I just don't really enjoy it because it relies on audio too much, like FNAF 4, and sometimes it's hard to hear shit and to know where it is. Also, the jump scares are just weak as hell in this game, and obviously we have one of the worst character designs without the whole franchise in this one too. You thought this peanut looking bastard was a good idea. Also, remember how I said Springtrap's corpse looks weird? Look at Scraptrap's, it is terrible. Why the hell is his head so damn big? Why is his mouth so weirdly shaped? And hey, gotta love those ear bones. People believe that good old William Afton somehow swapped himself into a different suit, or made massive repairs on his suit, and that just sounds dumb because this bastard did it with one arm. Besides that monstrosity, the other animatronics are alright. Molten Freddy's just Molten Freddy. It's basically just wires with a Freddy mask at the top. Scrap Baby's kinda cool. Not as good as the original design, but it works for this game. I will have to say that the best without a doubt is Lefty. It's a normal Rockstar Freddy costume with a hue change, but one eye's blacked out, and the fact that the puppet's stuck in the suit has some really cool details that actually ties into the lore. So in the game, good old Henry decided to use Lefty to capture his daughter, which ended up possessing the puppet. Speaking about the lore, we get a bit more lore with the mini games you can play by purchasing different things for your pizzeria. If you buy a security puppet for your pizzeria and play the game 3 times, on the 3rd time you get a cutscene. In the cutscene you see a girl's trapped outside as the purple guy ends them. Security puppet's stuck in the box because kids put a box on top of the box that security puppet's in. The puppet manages to get out and tries to find the girl outside, and as the puppet tries to find her, they end up breaking down because of the rain and lay down next to the girl that's lying down outside of the building. Another one is when you play the game Midnight Motorist, and you can get this by getting off at this exit in the last lap of the game, and it takes you down the path where you end up at a restaurant called Junior's. You're told that it isn't a good idea to come here by a grey man waiting outside, so you go back to what's meant to be your home. As you get home, you bang on someone's door, and eventually you see that they broke out of the window to go somewhere, as we also see animatronic footsteps outside. In the one I think is the coolest and most creepy, you play a game called Fruity Maze, and you have to collect everything on screen. After you do it once, you have to do it again, and you see bloody cats as the girl looks sad. You have to collect everything again, and after you've done it for a 2nd time, you play the game for a 3rd time to see a more mutilated cat with coffins and flowers. The girl's crying with Spring Bonnie behind them the 3rd time you play it, and this time you can't get the lightning power up that makes you faster, so it's actually impossible to collect all the items. I tried quite a few times. When you only have a few seconds left, you start to hear a car horn, but when the game ends, it gets interesting. Text comes up saying that he's not really dead, follow me. Obviously it's William trying to lure a child, and I find that implication of what will happen to be disturbing and really well done. Also, another thing is that Candy Cadet can tell you stories about 5 things becoming one that can be disturbing, such as 5 kids being stitched together to fit into one coffin. But I think you all know what this game is most well known for.
Connection terminated.
And yeah, this ending's great. It really ends the story in the best way possible, considering how convoluted and confusing the story is at this time. This game has 6 different endings, but that ending is the canonical ending to the game, with the others being more about how you deal with the pizzeria. It's unfortunate that there are some things I love about this game, but also some things I really don't enjoy about this game. All of the Pizzeria Simulator parts of this game are really enjoyable, but the office parts are really annoying and tedious. You do the same thing every night, but you always manage to get destroyed by an animatronic because sometimes it's just hard as hell to hear them coming. This game has some of the best stuff out of any FNAF game in it, but I don't think it's better than FNAF 4. It's really just the office sections of this game that are holding it back from being one of the best in the franchise. Funny fact, but Ultimate Custom Night was actually meant to be a custom night update to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, as Scott made a community post on the game's Steam page talking about the mode. The post was made on the 10th of March in 2018, and he started off by saying that this was a custom night mode and not its own separate game, until later on where the game got too big to just be an update for the game. He slowly posted more and more updates about the game's progress on the game, starting with adding characters to a grid until it filled up with characters. Then eventually added a loading bar that kept going up % until it was done, and a few other things such as other characters in the game that DD can bring into your game. Eventually the game released on the 27th of June in 2018, and I really think that this game came out at the perfect time since we already had the story wrap up in the previous entry, and it was a good challenge for hardcore players of the series. Obviously I don't even want to attempt 50/20 because look at this shit. But the game's meant to be just a fun game for the fans to finish off the franchise, and I think it works really well for that, even though this game has the worst jump scares. I don't think this game's bad at all since it does what it wants pretty well.
Please. What? With mango, dude?
Also, when I was talking about Nightmare On, this is the game I was talking about where the character actually makes sense. This could be the embodiment of death for William Afton since he killed Henry's daughter that ended up becoming the puppet, and whilst talking about lore things, I do believe what most of the community believe with this game being William's personal hell. To an extent. I think the child possessing Golden Freddy keeps putting them through the same thing over and over again, not letting them pass on, so it's not really a hell, it's more of a purgatory. The lore stuff in this game is really good with Easter eggs such as Old Man Consequences telling Golden Freddy to let his demons deal with his demons, and the secret ending with Golden Freddy twitching out showing that the child possessing Golden Freddy won't move on. There are quite a few lore implications of the voice lines after you die, which is really damn cool, since people really thought that this game would just be a custom night game with no lore. I don't have much else to say besides from it did what it was out to do really well. It may not be the best in the franchise, but it went out to make a fun game for hardcore fans of the series, and it did it well. A new studio's behind this game. Cool. I hope that it's a good game. So this game was already being teased as soon as the 19th of August in 2018, less than 2 months after Ultimate Custom Night came out, and that's pretty cool since this seems like the game that will take the franchise down a different direction. So we got a few different teasers and a trailer for the game until it ended up releasing on the 28th of May in 2019. So what do I think about this game? It's really damn fun. Yeah, I actually really enjoy this game since it's basically all of the games in one, but as a VR experience, or you can play it without VR, which I did since I don't have a VR headset. But even when it's not in VR, this game is really enjoyable. I imagine that the jump scares would be more scary with a VR headset though, as they aren't that scary when you're not playing the game in VR. This game definitely doesn't have the creepy atmosphere of the earlier FNAF games, but I really just enjoy playing the games as it can be creepy but also quite fun. I think that it's a neat idea for this game to be a game from Fazbear Corporation, saying that Scott made up these crazy stories and tried to ruin their reputation, so the company decided to make this game to repair their reputation. But the hidden story of the game is that a version of William Afton is in the game and you put him back together by collecting the tapes because you think that you're finding out how to get rid of him, but really you're putting him back together. Apparently they use Springtrap circuits to create the game, and now this is a digital version of William, and now he's trying to escape the digital world by taking over your body. It's a pretty over-the-top story, but I think it's pretty cool and an interesting way to take the franchise. This is just one of the games I don't have too much else to say about, since I just really think it's a fun horror game that uses the older games to make a different experience out of them. It's probably the second best game in the franchise.
Would you like to take a short survey about your experience?
With the success of Help Wanted, it was guaranteed Steel was going to get a chance to create another FNAF game, and the first teaser for this new game was posted on the 8th of August in 2019 for a 2020 release date when we saw this photo of the new gang performing in a mall. Eventually, we got teasers for Glamrock Freddy, Monty, and even the new villain of the game, Vanessa, and also her bunny outfit known as Vanny. But eventually a trailer for the game released on the 16th of September in 2020, and only 2 months later in November, Scott confirmed that the game was getting delayed to early 2021. And then it got delayed again, until it was finally released on the 16th of December in 2021. I think this game's the worst in the franchise. There are some really good things about this game, such as the character designs from the animatronics to even how Vanny looks. Also like how the game looks with the whole Pizzaplex visually, since it's a massive graphical update and it looks like an 80s mall setting. Talking about that though, I don't know why the contrast is so extreme in this game, because even having it at halfway makes everything almost completely black. You basically have to keep the contrast all the way down to actually see what you're doing. I also enjoyed the sun and moon section at the daycare and thought it was a really well done part of the game, since it was quite spooky but still fun to play through. But the biggest issue with this game is all the bugs and glitches, and there are still plenty of them in this game, even to this day. I had the game unload at least 4 times in the first hour of playing this game. It's ridiculous. Also, there are other things that really annoy me, such as forcing the player to go a certain direction after a cutscene, or the camera is forcibly changed to show something. For an example, the first time you run into Monty, when you run into Chica after running into Monty, it forces you to face in a direction, which made me literally run into her when I was originally running in the opposite direction. Also, what was the point with hyping up Vanny when you basically never see her in the rabbit costume in the whole game? It's honestly just wasted potential, since this could have been a villain that was inspired by William Afton to go out and end kids. Or, what I like to believe is that she got brainwashed by Glitchtrap to go out and do what William was doing, and to even try and repair him. Talking about the characters, I think Gregory is really damn annoying. I get that they're meant to be a child, but even then, they don't talk like a child at all.
I don't want to be crushed and twisted into a meat pretzel.
What kid talks like this? So with the main character being really annoying, I don't really sympathize with them or care about them getting out of the Pizzaplex. I will say that the story for this game isn't a bad idea in concept, having a child stuck overnight at a Pizzaplex, but the fact that they pull William Afton into this so half-assedly is so annoying. Also, I already talked about the wasted potential of Vanny, so it just feels meh. This game doesn't feel like there's like a massive big threat after you in it at all. It just feels like a bunch of henchmen after you the whole game. I feel like if Vanny was developed more in the game and we actually got to see the character more, then I think this could have been at least one of the best games in the franchise. But as the game stands, I really don't enjoy it at all, as it's still borderline unplayable, and the only thing carrying this game at the moment is all the mods the FNAF community has made for this game to try and improve it or give players different challenges to do. This is the worst in the franchise, besides from FNAF AR, which I played once and I'd never want to play again because I could care less about it. That's the thing, was FNAF ever good? I'm not beating around the bush with this. My answer is absolutely. Looking back at the franchise, I really do think that it was definitely good, at least for a while. As the games go, they were very different and unique to everything else out there in the indie horror genre, because it wasn't an exaggerated looking monster, it was a group of animatronics that actually look like animatronics that could exist. That's what I like about the franchise so much, and that's why I like the first game so much, since it really captures the essence of an 80s to 90s pizzeria to a T. Also, the lore that's built up in the first few games is actually really interesting. Even though it's a bit convoluted, it still is intriguing. There are many ups and downs of this franchise, but honestly, what horror franchise doesn't have ups and downs? Many other horror franchises have much lower lows than this does. But this franchise still does have a lot of potential to make great games, and even the FNAF movie has a lot of potential.
Are you challenging me?
But we will just have to look out and see what happens to the future of this franchise. Anyways, I hope you all really enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Lastly, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing, as it does really help me out, and I'm trying to get to 10k subs, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, on to the shoutouts. Massive thanks to the following supporters. Massive thanks to Ash Crimson, Miranda S, Diamond Pony, and Madeline Stringer for supporting my $2 pirate tier. Massive thanks to Elliot, Angie Patterson, and Juliet Wakefield for supporting my $5 pusher tier. Massive thanks to Sam M1994 for supporting my $10 Pee Wee Herman tier. And lastly, a huge thanks to Fatima for supporting my $25 Top Chef tier. If you want to find out how you can get your names in my videos, please make sure to click the little join button on YouTube, or otherwise click the little Patreon logo on screen at the moment. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video.
Why can't I be straight and like Five Nights at Freddy's? Why is that illegal?